All right. I'll let everybody know we're on Twitter that I was going to go live. I finished and just used markers and Posca pen to finish that, and came in and just sort of made some floral area. And I think I'm going to put that either on background. I just don't think I like it on the coral. I think I like it on the darker background, personally. Hi, Joycey. Could go something light like that. But if I was going to do that, I might as well just leave that, let the white of the backing show. Like I said, I think it looks better. It's either on the darker red or the brown. I think it looks better on the brown. The dark. The brown. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Heather. The brown. Okay, that's what I thought too. I'm just kind of waiting for some people to get in. But I'll put that in there. So what I'll end up doing is cutting this paper 8 by 10. So it fits in the opening of the mat. And then what I can do is center this on here. And I'll use some double stick tape. And then I'll put it in the mat. But it needs to be sprayed. It's hot. So I had the other night, I got the whole set. And so I played the other night. And I'll show you what I kind of did, and then I'm going to do some tests. So I started out with what I call striations. Hi, Elaine. And hi, Dot. Hi, Christy. So striations I get usually when I just kind of pull the ink, a line, and then I take a brush and run it across. And I used a fan brush, and I ran it across. And I had 3 colors. This out like a lime green, which you can see a little bit in there where I had the bleed over, but I went darker because I didn't like it. And once that all dried, I came back in with just some plain alcohol and put in some wave motion and a moon. That I was pleased with. I messed up the moon and had to kind of come back in, but that was my fault. So that I was super pleased with how they performed. Okay. Then I went and did the wispy. I tried to do the wispy look. And I'm going to tell you, this was super hard to do with these inks. And I put the black at the bottom, which went to a really pretty gray. They were very sticky. So I went ahead and added the foil, which is the pewter, and there's quite a bit of foil on there, you can see. But this was very hard to get. Oh, good, Beth. I think you'll like it. Now, I have never put any paint in mine, and I don't intend to. I just like using it for the air. Then I just did some drops. And I was using the metallic, but I didn't really like the metallic gold because it just kind of went yellow on it. And then I used some silver foil. Some of this I like a lot, some not so much. It's just a piece of scratch. And this one I'll probably cut up. Oh, is it buffering? So what I pulled out today was 4 inks in purples. Now, they're not like exactly the same color. That's not what I'm testing at all. That's not the point of the test. So I'm going to put the inks on this right here. There's the marker. Here's the Pinata. Here's the Ranger. I thought these were hard to get off, but I like the way they come out. Okay. So that's our original colors. I'm just going to let that kind of, none of them are really blowing around a whole lot except for the last one, which I'm more pleased with than I was the other night. Okay, so that's our originals that I'm going to keep kind of. Okay, thanks, Joycey. I tweeted to buffering. I hate the buffering. It's been doing that a lot lately. So I'll let those sit. Pinata, Ranger, and Marabou. Now I will tell you that the Pinata is probably of all of them is the most pigmented. And I chose the purple because it's highly pigmented. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. And I took some translucent Yupo. And what I'm going to do is take each one and try a different technique. Better? Because there's a lot of white. So I'm going to take 2 aside, and I'm just going to do these one at a time because I can't work 4 inks at one time. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to start with the marker. And I'm going to start with the striations. And when I do the striations, I just do some lines of ink. And then I add some alcohol. And I come in with like a brush. Now the marker pigment is always going to go kind of lighter. Okay, so there's the striations in the marker. And we're not really comparing the color. All right, now let's do the Pinata. Very smooth, and it will be reactive. And I do like 2 colors. All right, now let's do the Tim Holtz Ranger. Now, I will say this is the thinnest of all the inks. It also tends to, yes. Hi, Aya or Anya, but English, please. All right, so this tends to like sputter sometimes when you go to, I get little ink drops sometimes when I use Rangers. Because as you're going to do this, it'll squirt out. Okay, this one gave me the most, what I think of as like striations, that it has bands of dark and light so far. Let's do the Marabou. I'm trying to set these and keep them in order so I know. All right, so we're going to do the Marabou. I found that these do not want to move very often. It works good for striations because if something stays darker in a line, I don't care for striations. Okay, so that's that test. Now what I'm going to do is come back in and let's try to get the wispy look. So I'm just going to color an area. And then when I do this, I usually put the alcohol on the outside to get it to go wispy. And this is 90% alcohol. So, and I work in sections. And what I'm trying to do is kind of get rid of that hard look. And get those layers that kind of look like silk. It works pretty easy with markers, but your pigment will be lighter just because it's markers. All right, so I'm going to leave that one kind of like that, and I left the hard edge there so we can compare. All right, so the next one I'm going to do is the Pinata. And I'm going to do the same kind of basic shape. And then I'm going to come in and work sections. Now, I do find that sometimes the Pinata, if you want to go lighter and get that wispy, is harder because it's so much pigment. but it does reactivate and move. See, that got the wispiness a little more. Okay, so that's the pinata. Like I said, the hardest thing about the pinata and doing the wispiness is it's hard to get it very light because it is so highly pigmented. All right. Next is the Ranger. Now, I will say one thing about the Ranger inks is they sometimes will have secondary colors that will bleed out, where the Pinata doesn't do that as much. And I did not see the Marabou or the markers do that as much. But a lot of times the Rangers will bleed out into another color, which I actually kind of like, but you need to know it if you're, it's nice to know it when you go to work the project. The Ranger is thinner. It's the thinnest of the 3 bottles. Which can make it hard to control when it comes out. Because it's so thin, that can be harder. I think the markers in the Ranger are my favorite for this technique, for going wispy. But I like the other colors you get. Because see, this one's breaking down into a pink and a blue along with the indigo. All right, so the next one is the Marabou. I'm hoping they're going to perform a little better on the Yupo maybe than they did on the craft plastic. And maybe it was the craft plastic they didn't want to move on. Hi, Norma. So right here, I'm telling you that I'm getting a way different feel already than I did on the craft plastic. So the problem with the wispy look may be more on the craft plastic. But I am getting still circles, if that makes sense. I'm like working harder to get it to move. I have to get the gun closer to get anything to move. Which is sort of what I was kind of experiencing. I was just really struggling to get that. See this line right here? It's going to be I'm going to have to get right up on it with alcohol. To get it to move. And even then, it doesn't really want to move. So it's not staining, but it tends to sit and not want to move as much. All right, so now I'm going to come back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some circles in our original color. Now, marker is a little harder because it doesn't make drops. So I want to just get some circles in there on all four. And kind of let them do their thing and dry. And then we'll mess with them a little bit. Now this is where I sometimes have trouble with Ranger because that you don't want. See those little dots that I didn't really want? And Ranger is so thin, it is hard to keep just like a little dot. All right, let's do the Marabou. Okay, I have some, I'm going to kind of tap that dry because that's, I do like the control of the nozzle. It does not spread very far. I'm trying to get some bigger. All right, now I'm going to put all the purples away. And we'll get something else to go with it. Let's see. We can try a metallic in all three. Okay, I have Pinata Brass. I don't have a metallic marker, so we're not going to have metallic for the marker. So I have Pinata Brass. I have Ranger. I may not have a brass in Ranger. I have gold in Ranger. So maybe but I don't have gold. Yeah, I have gold in Pinata. We'll go gold. I have gold in all of them. And I bought these. I am just comparing them to see what they can do. It's not a paid review. I wasn't asked to review them by any company. So this is just for my own. All right, and then that's the metallic. We'll try. I want to get another color to go in. I'm going to use regular alcohol. I'm leaning a kind of like an olive green, a Pinata olive green. The Pinata colors are so strong. That's going to be the problem with Pinata. All right, let's do the metallic first. Okay, so here's the Pinata metallic. And you have to shake it pretty well because yeah, I have the new inks and I'm comparing them to the Ranger and the Pinata. Okay, so I want to put some gold down here in our wispy part. And I'm just going to put a gold drop. And I'm going to put some alcohol on the wispy part. Oh. And I'm going to use now the Pinata Gold. I like it shatters, and I like that. I'm going to leave that one just sort of right there. Okay. Now let's go with the Ranger Gold. Oop, we lost. See what I mean about the Ranger being so thin? Okay, so here's into the wispy part. And we'll add gold on one of those circles. And we're going to add alcohol ink to the Ranger Gold. It does not shatter as much as the Pinata does. It moves okay, but it doesn't. When you add the alcohol to it, it doesn't shatter. It doesn't stay as metallic. The Pinata metallic really stay metal, or at least the copper, the brass and the gold. I don't like the copper Pinata very well. All right, here is the gold from Marabou. The other night when I was using this, one of the problems I had was the ball kept getting stuck in the nozzle. To me, this is more like pigment, like a gold color. It has a very pretty shimmer, but it is more translucent, which I think just a minute. But they are super sticky, like super sticky. So see how translucent that is, where you can see the original? Where on this one, it's much harder to see the original. That's the Pinata. And there's the Ranger. The Pinata is the best metallic, hands down. This gives you more of a, like a glittery shimmer. If you're wanting to kind of mix it with the color, this is not a bad choice. It's translucent, so it has its uses or purposes. It's very thin. But if I had to go to one, well, actually my preference is still to go to the foil when I want metallics, because I actually get the best. No, that's not. I get the best coverage metallic wise if I go to the foil. I'm not getting a whole lot on these. They're you can see it went all the way around those circles. I probably didn't get it to do the same thing up here. So when I want metallic, I prefer to use the foil. And I didn't time this to get the foil in the right places. You have to have ridges built up. So the only place I'm going to get any foil right now is this because it's the most recent. Okay, now let's try just alcohol. And what does just alcohol do to it? So what I'm going to do is take a dotting tool. And I'm going to just take a little cup and put some just plain alcohol in it. And I want to see how it moves the ink. Okay, so it definitely moves the ink on the marker. I get a definite circle and it's a lightening of the pigment. You know, you can't compare the color, like how much it goes to white, because the pigment's not the same. The Pinata Gold is this one. And it shatters and it looks like gold. The Pinata Brass does the same thing. I understand that they are reformulating their silver and silver's gonna shatter. I feel like this has more metallic pigment in it, where these are more like mica glittery. Okay, so that did the same thing. It did the ink. It's not going to be as light. Remember, this is so much darker. It's not going to be as light, but it did bring out, and I could go back in there on that same circle again with more rubbing and get it to go lighter. But it is moving it. It is spreading out and moving it. So the marker and the Pinata move with just rubbing alcohol. Here's the Ranger. It did the same thing. It does move. Now, again, Rangers will often have another color in it or a mixture of colors. So you might see a color you don't expect. Like, see, this one goes blue. It goes like a baby blue, but you can also get a pink in it. Okay, these will move. They don't move as much. Let's go with a second. They don't flow as easily. Now, that could have some benefits that they don't flow as easily for other techniques. Yes, she had a green that went to blue. That was probably lettuce or peeled paint. There's a Ranger green that goes to that turquoise. That's exactly what caused Colleen's to do that. And hi, Button, by the way. So now, if you're going to paint, like take and do detailed painting, I think that the Marabou might be a really good ink because they're not going to flow as much. It is a good range of colors. Their rainbow is really neat. It makes anything kind of shimmery, but they don't flow that well. Now, the other thing that I think that this would be good for is sometimes when you do splatters in another color, they go light. So I'm going to take the Marabou in green at the table and some alcohol to it just to get a little more liquid. And I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to do splatters. And I think that those will stay green. Whereas when you do that with like Ranger, well, you can't do that with marker, right? Or you can, it's very difficult. Now, here's a color dropped on to a dot, and it should move it out. Now, it's fine if you move it out with rubbing alcohol first and then you put your color, but it should move it out, the color, but it's not at this time really doing that. Okay, so let's get rid of that green. And let's find a green. Now, my green's not going to be the same greens just because I'm going to try to go similar greens. Okay. Now, the only way that I know that you could splatter with a marker, let me move those. The only way that you can really splatter with a marker is if you put some on your table and you put some alcohol in it and you get something kind of liquid, you can splatter. Now, it's going to be very light. And I'm also going to take some of this and just add it. But see how that moved immediately and made kind of a brown? That's what the Marabous don't. They don't react as much. So if you're doing like just drops on drops, they don't shift as much. But that could be a good thing depending what you're doing. Okay, so that's the way you could get drips on a marker or splatters on a marker. It is possible. And then, like I said, you can just go straight and push the other color away. Sometimes you'll get a mixture, sometimes you won't. Okay, let's go to the Pinata next. And I'm going to tell you this green, strong. So I'm going to go with just a dot here in the purple. And I'm going to put a little on the table with some alcohol. I hardly ever use this green because it is so intense. You can see it just took over that purple. It just pushed it out. And you got a combination. Now, when I put it in the lighter dot of previous alcohol, then you do see the green. Now, you'll notice that when you have the metallics, they don't push as much. They will go like a metallic of that color. See, I got some of the purple from somewhere bled through. But they don't. Let's get rid of that green. Okay, So put the Pinata to the side. All right, let's get the Ranger. All right, so let's just do a drop straight on the purple. And then let's do a drop on the lighter color. All right, let's put some on the table. And we'll add some alcohol. Again, I am not comparing the colors because they're not the exact. I'm trying to keep them similar. But it's easy to do splatters. You can see how quickly the splatters move the previous layer. You can see down here how it really moves the previous layer. The Pinata did not move the previous layer as much. The marker and the Rangers move easier, in my opinion. And I like that kind of mottled look. You can see here the drops. Now, I did not have as dark a green on here, so don't judge by the faint. In fact, let me see if I can get a darker green. Okay. Here's a drop on a drop in an area. I'm not going to dilute this as much because, like I said, they are very, they're not highly pigmented, but that's not a bad thing. Now they moved not too bad right here down on the thin layers. When you've got it, the ink thicker, it didn't move as much. But if you have a thin layer, it did move. I think that the difference is here's my opinion, and this is just my opinion. I think that if you want pigment, Pinata is your best buy. If you want intense, bright colors, Pinata is the best buy because you can dilute it and bring it down, right? You can put it in a container. So I can take, well, that's what I did with the blue, is I took the blue and took a little bit of the blue and added ink because I liked the Baja Blue, but it was so strong that it was hard to work with. And I still think I have this too strong. Ranger to me is the most fluid. You are going to get secondary colors with Ranger. You don't have to tint it down because they already sell light colors and dark colors. So, you know, I don't have to I can just go and get a straight up light, but this color isn't what you think it is. It goes blue and pink. So you have to, that's the one caveat about Ranger is you have to like do a sample and know if you add alcohol to it, what's it going to do? I think the Pinata's strength is that they don't move easily. So if you were trying to do like a fine painting, then it's going to be good. I think they don't have 90. I don't think their alcohol content is as strong. They act to me just the way the inks did when I used the 70% alcohol. they just get dense and stick to the paper, and they're very difficult to move, and I struggle to move them. I don't ever have that problem with the other inks when I'm using the 91% alcohol. So I wonder if they have a lower grade rubbing alcohol in them. To me, this is like student grade, and these are more professional. Now the markers, they're going to have the lightest tint. They're also the easiest, lots of colors for a low price point. You know, you can get a lot of colors and a lot of bang. So if I were going to just explore in alcohol ink and I didn't really have a plan, I would probably start with markers that you probably already own. A lot of us already have these like 48-piece sets that we got, or 80-piece sets. Now I have added a skin tone set. I have added blues. And then I have added the landscape set by Master. And I really like these. This is my favorite marker that I've bought. And the main thing I like is the tip. If I were to reinvest in the markers, I would buy all their sets. And these are not Copics by any means. And this is called Master, and they have different sets. The landscape is a good set to start with. It has your grays, it has some greens, some pinks, some blues. There were 24 markers, I believe, in that set. All these ones that stand taller are the masterpiece, but I have them sorted into colors so I can just grab a little easier. And they came, the blue and the skin tone came in these pouches, and the big 48-piece. Now I have some duplicates when I did the skin tone and the blues, and I just put those in a drawer for later when they run out. This is translucent Yupo. No, I do not think you can get alcohol stronger than 91. Maybe a 99, but it's really hard to find. In fact, I couldn't get a big bottle of the 91%. At Kroger's, they only carried this little size, and it was a lot higher price. But at Albertsons, they carried the bigger bottle of the 91%. I tried mixing. When I was running out of the 91%, I tried adding the 70%. Did not work because it has a higher water content, I think. So I would tread a little more cautiously. If I were to do it again, I would not buy the set of 28. I would have just bought the rainbow. And I would have bought $70 worth of Copic ink refills. Because the other thing that you can buy that is fun to work with are the refills for the markers. This is the Touch brand, and I paid less than $4 for that bottle of ink. If you want specific colors, you can order them. That's the way a lot of people do with the Copics, is they order the ink refills. Yeah, Master ink pens, Elaine, is what I bought. I'll show you. Let me get my phone and I'll show you. I'll pull it up on my order history. I just have to go far enough back. Okay, here's the blues that I ordered. And that was just $17.99. And they have a skin tone. That's not the master ones, though. Those are not the ones. This is the 24 master landscape. And they were $30. And they have a set of skin tones. And they have a set of the gray tones. So if you already have a set of the like inexpensive markers, if you already have it, and most of us do, a lot of us have alcohol ink markers that we already bought. Maybe medical would be my only, but I think this is possibly medical grade. But 99% might be medical grade, but you cannot buy it in the grocery store. You can buy 91% on Amazon. Usually you have to buy like 2 bottles or a 4-pack, and it's higher than it should be. So Walgreens, CVS, your grocery store is a much better place to buy your rubbing alcohol. So let's go ahead and we'll work with the Marabou, and I'm going to work with Striations. I do like their colors. They have really neat reds. I really like their browns. Their greens and their blues were so-so. They really did good in the turquoise family. But I wanted more mid-tone blues, and there weren't. And I wanted more of a variety in greens, and there weren't. But I like the reds and like the brown, orange, red, but that's something I'm kind of lacking. So maybe that's why that appealed to me. Will I use the Marabous? Oh, definitely. So I have the vanilla, cinnamon, caramel, and a brown. So I'm going to use these. I think I want to put, before we do this, I think I want to put, yes, Pinata. But I would say if I had to do it over, I would not buy the Marabou. I would just buy some specific colors in the individual. I would not buy the set. For the way I like to do inks, because I like the wispy look. So, like I said, that's just my opinion. Now, if I probably am going to use the Marabous to paint more. All right, I'm going to do some masking fluid. And I don't have any soap in here. I need to get some. But I'm just going to do like birch trees. I need to tint my masking fluid so y'all can see it better. Usually I do the masking fluid before I come on the stream, so you don't have to wait for it to dry. I'm just going to do 3 trees on this. Okay, and this is the craft plastic that I've switched to. I had a piece of the craft plastic, so let's let that dry. And we'll take a piece of the Yupo. And I'll demonstrate when I say wispy technique, what I mean. I'm just going to use markers because it will be faster and easier. I'll go with kind of an aqua green. All right, then I'm just going to take the alcohol on the side that I want to wisp. I'm going to take the air gun. And you can see how easy it is to wisp that color out. Oh, this time I'm going to put the ink on this side. And if I decide I need more color in an area when the alcohol is dry, you can come back in. Let's add some more color in this middle area right in here. And you can get what looks like layers of silk kind of piled on top of each other, translucent, clouds. Now in that color, when it broke down, it did get some areas that were more blue than green. Yeah, that's what I'm fixing to do right now, which is an easy beginner's technique, is what I call striations. So let's see. This is not quite dry enough. Let's try while we're waiting. One of the techniques that I like that I haven't been able to really kind of master is like a rose. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it with the Baja Blue, which is a watered down pinata color. This is one way to do it, which I have not mastered. So you put a large amount of the ink, and then you take a heat source, and you go around. I think I don't get around the outside. I lose my circle. I think taking down the paper. So that's the closest that I've gotten. I think I had my air too high. See how it rings? Kind of like a geode. Okay, so, but I got to thinking with the the Marabou, you might be able to do something similar. All right, I'm just grabbing a pink color. Okay, I'm going to take a brush and kind of work in my first circle because they don't move as much. All right, then let's try ink on low. Okay, now let's take and make a smaller circle of the same ink. I should have gone bigger with that one. And now let's go again. See how the rings are now got silver on them? I'm gone.